In light of Hurricane Ian that just came through Florida, as most of you probably already know, a lot of people might be thinking, I don't know if Florida's the right place for me. I'm seeing all these videos and pictures of all the devastation, and we can't blame you. But in today's video, we're going to be talking about why that may or may not be that big of a deal to you and what you can do to prepare for it. What is going on? It is Andrew and
AJ
with the Emerald Group right here on the beautiful Emerald Coast. Listen, we are doing videos everywhere from Pensacola to Panama City Beach and everything in between. So if these are areas that are of interest to you, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button and then tickle that little blue bell so that you'll be notified every single time we make a new video.
We've been getting calls, texts, Facebook messages, emails. I don't think we've gotten any letters. I would like a letter. Can you guys mail us a letter if you have a question?
Ooh.
That'd be kind of cool, right?
Might take a while to answer though.
Well, they could put their phone number or email address in the letter, but it would just be cool to open, unless you have horrible handwriting. If you're a doctor or a lawyer, just type it. Type it for us. But still, it'd be kind of cool to send it. But anyways, we've been getting all kinds of communications. They're super fun, all the different ways that we get them, and figuring out how to serve you best is the best part. So please continue to do so. If you have any questions, keep in mind we are mainly a real estate company. So make sure these questions relate to real estate.
Or to the area.
Or to the area.
All right, let's jump right into hurricanes, okay? With Hurricane Ian on everybody's mind, depending on when you're watching this, we're shooting this right after it happened, about a week or so after. There's been a lot of devastation, a lot of damage, a lot of stuff came through. And this is something that you're going to have to deal with if you decide to live here in Florida. Of course, depending on where you live, it might, have bigger repercussions than not. If you're a little bit further inland versus right on the water, these are all going to affect basically how a hurricane will affect you.
So just jumping right into it, I can give you guys a little bit of backstory from me. I personally have been through 3 major devastations as far as hurricanes are concerned. Being a Floridian, we had to suffer through Andrew, and then also Charlie, we lost our house. And then I lost a good chunk of my house from Sally. And my parents just lost quite a bit through Ian. So we're coming to you guys with actual experience, and we're still here.
It's still not going anywhere.
Still not going anywhere.
At the end of the day, the pros outweigh the cons. But for those of you that are worried, because this is a real thing, and I'm sure a lot of people that have been watching this channel or other channels across Florida are probably thinking the same thing. What do I do? What's this going to look like? So we kind of want to walk you guys through the steps and the decision-making process that we make throughout throughout the entire thing. And then some things you can do to prepare so that when you do move down here, you will be prepared as much as possible.
So some of the things that we definitely tell our clients to look for if you're here and you're going to purchase is check that elevation level. You're thinking, well, what do high winds have to do with elevation? Nothing, but those waters that come up do. So, we're a peninsula, pretty close to the sea level. So the water does have a strong tendency to rise a significant amount when we get a big hurricane. So having a great elevation for your property is a really good idea. Or just make sure you're not the low house in the neighborhood, because that can give you a really bad day. He's laughing because that's what happened to my house. I was the lowest lot, and everybody's docks came into my house.
And a boat, actually.
And a boat.
A boat went into her house, funny
Yeah.
enough. So that's always exciting.
So these are the things that you look for, when you're buying a house. Is a boat going to come through it? But no, really, checking that elevation. And then what type of mitigating structures are present to your property? If you do have a low elevation, do you have a seawall, that extends upwards? Is your house elevated from everything around it? These types of things. Is there a drain system?
You on stilts, or brick home right on, just all of it, all encompassing is a good thing to look at, whether you're buying or even renting. You want to make sure that you're in the clear there, or if you're not, you need to make sure that you have a good backup plan whenever a hurricane comes in play. Because a lot of people, they want to stick it out, and there's nothing wrong with that to a certain degree, but that's also during some of the worst storms, it's also not a great thing for you if you're caught in that.
Yeah, anything over a Cat 3, really, in my opinion, you should get the heck out of Dodge. Threes, all right, we can be hashtag Florida man, go a little crazy. But once it gets into a 4, we're talking about wiping houses off the land, because that 4 encompasses pretty close to a 5, right? And we see entire buildings just go missing, like they never existed. And if they take the building that you're in, you're going with it. Cat 3, not so much. Cat 4s and 5s, go on vacation.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Right at 4, that's when I generally start looking at, okay, cool, I need to get out of town. But not because I'm worried about a 4 where I'm at personally. Got an old house that was built in, the 1980s. It's withstood 2 extremely big hits without any hiccups. So I'm not really worried about it on that point. But a 4 can turn into a 5 very quickly. And because I am less than a quarter of a mile to the water, I'm just close enough that at that point it's time to go ahead and get out of town. So a little bit prior, there are some things that you can do to prep once you hear of a hurricane coming through into the Gulf, and we call it into the box. Once it gets into that box area, that's when you really want to kind of watch it and just listen out for it. And if it's getting stronger and you're not really sure where it's going or what it's going to do, it might be a good option to go ahead and fill up the vehicles and get everything prepped to leave town.
And keep that in mind too, is sometimes these things can turn on a dime, Sometimes they do things that were completely unexpected, like Sally. It's just so much better to be out of the way, especially if you have small children. Now that I have a young daughter, I'll definitely be leaving as soon as it's pushing into a level 2. And not because I'm worried about my house necessarily, but because if there are power outages, all it takes is for like a couple of trees to go down, and there's, immense pain, just in standard of living. I'd rather be out in an Airbnb somewhere that, they're not even tracking this thing.
Overlooking the mountains, sitting in a hot tub or something,
Yeah, or that. Yeah, that sounds amazing.
That sounds way better than sitting in a hurricane. Before we go too far into this, I don't want you guys thinking that these hurricanes are happening every year. So in fact, I've been here for about 16 years. And I think I've been through maybe 3 decent hurricanes, decent meaning the strength, not that they were good people or anything. But yeah.
Sweet hurricanes.
Yeah, some sweet hurricanes. And I never evacuated for any of them, although during Hurricane Michael, that was one that you were just touching on. They're a little bit unpredictable. Hurricane Michael was actually supposed to hit us directly. It kind of turned at the last second, which is what worried us because it turned into that Category 4 very quickly. And then all of a sudden looked like it was going to be a direct hit to us. So we were kind of hunkered down going, hey, what the heck do we, it's too late to leave. So we've just got to play this out. And luckily for us, it kind of turned, but then it hit our neighbors to the east over there in Panama City pretty hard. So they are unpredictable. Don't just think, like even in this last hurricane for Ian, it was slotted to go down south. And even for a long time, we were like, hey, some of those spaghetti models are still up here to us. We still got to watch it because you just don't know.
Now, if you do see a hurricane coming your way, what do? You've got to prep your house, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen. Just imagine everything is a projectile. So everything that you've got outside, if you can shake it loose from whatever it's at, bring it inside. It needs to come in. Anything that can come in should come in. And then if you don't have shutters installed on your property, then boarding up the windows is a great idea. If your neighbor is like this far from you and it's your windows facing each other, you're probably fine. But those ones facing out towards the roads, out to a backyard that maybe has like some foresty stuff or water, definitely want to get those things completely covered up.
I would also suggest that getting the inside of your house ready as well, especially if you're a little bit closer to water. Get all those electronics up off the ground, put them on desks, put them on the second floor if you've got one, particularly expensive computers and iPads and your personal documents if you've got one of those fireproof safes, or if it's just sitting out in the open, definitely get those either prepared to go with you if you're evacuating, or get it to a high and dry spot so you don't lose everything in the event that a little bit of water comes in.
And the other thing, I almost don't even like to talk about it, is it's not just the hurricane that you need to be prepared against either. If this is going to be like a massive thing and you do have to leave and you're boarding up your house, make sure you secure it really well. Don't forget to lock your doors or anything. Any form of security that you can provide additionally while you're going to be gone is a really good idea, because when things go really, really south, there are some scavengers we'll call them.
Looters, whatever you want to call them. People are not going to be the best version of themselves in these situations. Oh, well, insurance is going to cover it, so we can go steal from them. This actually happens a lot. And this is why a lot of times you'll see videos and pictures of people that have signs out that say, looters beware, we'll shoot on sight, and things like that. Here in Florida, that is not a good idea. If you think coming down here to loot right after a hurricane is a good idea, you might be in for a world of hurt, because some people are going to shoot first and ask questions later. This is a stand your ground law state.
So lock your house.
So before we get into all of the great things that we're going to talk about with hurricane preparedness, please keep in mind, you can scroll down below in the little remarks, hit that more button. There will be a link there for you that will take you to the guide of all of the stuff we're about to talk about. So if you want to make it nice and easy for you, you can do that. Or of course, you can always go to Google and find a lot of good stuff there. But what we put in our little guide is just the tips that we suggest for you. So go ahead and go down there and grab it if you'd like.
Just the tips.
Just the tips. So now getting into a little bit of hurricane preparedness. There are a million articles out there for different things to prepare. Here's my suggestion. If you're going to stick around for it, get a box of delicious booze, okay? And another box of Cards Against Humanity, and invite some friends over, and you're going to have a good time. Unless it gets up to that category 3 or 4 or 5, then it might be less of a good time, but at least you'll be drunk for it. No, but in all seriousness, no, I do suggest getting a hurricane preparedness kit, getting some canned goods in there, maybe some perishable foods. You can actually buy some of these online, whether it's MREs, military ready to eat rations, or whether it's prepackaged foods. Lots of water. I like to fill up my my tub with water, or multiple tubs in the house with water as well. This just gives you another option just in case you run out, or in my case, if I was too lazy to go out and buy a bunch of jugs of water like I should, I end up using them from my hurricane preparedness kit. I'm like, oh, I'll just grab this real quick. And, so not a good idea. Don't follow what I do. Just follow what I say. Make sure you have water and fill up those tubs as a backup option.
Also, any type of, electronics that you can charge by hand, like you can crank them, they make radios and flashlights where you can do that. Those are really good, because once that electric goes out, you don't know how long you're going to be without power. And at least being able to see would be really great. They also make batteries that you can charge your phone off of with a crank as well. If you can find those, or I think they're sold. I don't know if they make a crank one yet, but it would be worth it to have another way to charge your phone. But just know if the electric goes out, the internet's out, and chances are a lot of times cell phone towers go out as well. So that's a thing. But at least when it does come back, you've got power. You can let everybody know that you're safe. Mark yourself safe on Facebook.
Yeah, you can get solar versions of all of this stuff. But of course, right after a hurricane, a lot of times the sun's not out for a while as all the trailing clouds are there. So do keep that in mind. One of the biggest things that I suggest to people are power banks. So these are those little tiny charge ones. They'll generally charge something for about 4 hours, give or take, for the small ones. And then they get bigger and bigger, and you can have some that last for days and days on end. So whatever you feel comfortable with, however many devices are in your house that you'd like to make sure are covered, you can do that. And then make sure you're keeping batteries on hand for those flashlights and anything else that you don't have a crank or a solar panel for.
Gas-powered generators are a really, really great option too. And a lot of times you can even turn off the circuits to like rooms that you're not using and just keep it on in one area. So like if everything goes down in the summer, then you can still have some airflow to like one specific room, and just kind of cordon it off to save on that energy. But it's a really good idea, so you can maybe still save some food, maybe cook a little bit. Or at least just microwave something, just to have a little bit of a better standard of life as you wait for, normalcy to come back.
All right, waterproofing your house. This is another thing that you may or may not want to do. Certain neighborhoods in our area are actually going to offer large dirt piles with, bags that you can fill up. There's a couple of different neighborhoods here in Fort Walton, and then of course in the surrounding cities as well that do it. So this gives you another option to help waterproof your house. Stick these sandbags right around the door frame, even rising up a little bit to give yourself a little bit of a buffer, especially if you're in a more low-lying area. So even though you might not be near the water, there are a lot of houses here and there, because we were built in the area that we were built on, that are more shallow than others and that retain more water than others. So as AJ was saying, sometimes it's you're the low-lying person in the neighborhood, but other times it's just the type of irrigation system that is in that neighborhood. Maybe you just happen to be in a bad area where a lot of it is, a little bit downhill and collecting. So the point of this is waterproofing your house is a good option.
In the event that you're going to stick around, this might sound kind of silly, but get like a paddleboard or a surfboard or something like that to have at the house, because if it does flood, then you're probably going to want to like transport stuff at some point. Like maybe while the thick of it is going on, you're like getting some trash bags of just some clothes and a couple things of food or whatever, and you can evacuate to a safer location. Speaking from experience, having a paddleboard is a really great way to put your stuff on top of it and get it to the next area. We were in 4 feet of water, and having the ability to like set our stuff on something and push it down the street floating, was really great. So something you might not have thought of, but they're actually really useful in that scenario.
So really kind of odd story. What I use for this is pretty funny. I've never actually told anybody this before, but I bought an inflatable pool at Sam's Club for like $9. It has like these 3D goggles that you can see anyway, it's sitting in a box. And I was going to get rid of it one day. I bought it as a joke to be like, oh, I just installed my new pool. I don't know why. For like $9, I was like, this is worth that laugh, right? So I ended up buying this thing, and I never got rid of it because I saw a video a couple of years ago of somebody floating in their living room in one of these things. And because they were in like 3-4 feet of water. And I was like, I'm totally keeping this, because now, just like you said, I can throw all of my goods in there and just walk it out if I need to. I don't have to worry about anything else. I can blow it up manually. It'll only take a few minutes, and it will hold a ton of stuff. And then I've also got a couple of those floating coolers as well. So if I've got food I need to bring with me, I can do that also. So it might be a nice little hack for you. It's a little bit cheaper than buying a stand-up paddleboard.
True story. $9 versus $9. At least hundreds. Oh my God.
But it'll work.
Also, if you have any other medical issues, you want to make sure that you have enough of your stuff on hand to last you, because when a big hurricane like this comes through, electric goes out, buildings get demolished, and you don't know how long it's going to take for life to continue as normal. And of course, like, people are going to be working as hard as they can to reestablish everything as quickly as possible, but sometimes that's just going to take a while. So make sure you have everything that you need, medically, food, water, maybe even like create a bug out bag, with clothing and some like waterless soap, whatever, as if you were, on like a survival hike, essentially, because you're kind of potentially going to be.
Yeah, a couple of changes of underwear and socks are 2 of the biggest ones that a lot of people need right after this. So bring some of those in your bug out bag. I just keep a backpack full of some extra stuff like this. Cost me maybe $40, including the bag. I can literally just grab it, pick it up, and go. Got power banks in there, so this way I know where they're at. I go straight to them. I plug them in right before the hurricane. I've got those extra clothes. I've got a little bit of perishable or non-perishable goods in there, and just keep it all in one spot. It's real easy. If I'm sitting there and a tree comes through my door, or a BMW parks in my front living room, then I can just grab that stuff and run to a neighbor's house and see, what they've got there for me, if they've got some alcohol for me to drink my sorrows away. Now, talking about returning back from a hurricane, whether you were there or you're coming back after evacuating, give yourself a little bit of time. The community is going to need you. Your neighborhood's going to need you. We all kind of, it's just kind of like a Florida thing. There's a lot of us, not all of us, but there's a lot of us that always get together. We figure out who needs help. We go over there and we try to do what we can. So, whether it's helping move a boat out of your living room in certain cases, or just moving a bunch of debris and some other docks, whatever people around you need, make sure that you've got a little bit of time to stick around and help them with that. I'm sure your folks at work are not going to be all that upset if that's what you're doing.
And another thing about your return trip is make sure you're checking the highways. Like, look at Google Maps and such. Get on the Facebook groups and try to get as much information as you can on whether those roads are even still open. Because a lot of times, these these systems, they're going to knock out bridges. They're going to overflow lakes and just different bodies of water onto the road and wash it out completely. So you might be like, okay, hurricane's over. I'm going to rush back to the house and start getting everything back together. I'm going to rebuild right now. Well, the roads might say otherwise. So just keep an eye on that. If you're not in the area and you're coming back and you don't own a chainsaw, buy one wherever you are. Buy 2 of them. Bring them home with you. You're going to use them or someone else's.
Make sure that your gas is filled up at any given time too, whether you're coming back or leaving. That's another pretty common thing. You'll see a lot of people broke down on the side of the road because they did not put enough gas in their vehicle. Traffic is going to back up. You've got Destin alone has 14,000 people. If it's not tourist season, you've got Fort Walton at 20 some odd thousand. That's just 2 cities in our neighborhood, and they would all be leaving at once, right? And all, for the most part, headed to the same general areas. You got a lot of people that head up to, the Atlanta area if they're going north. For some people that are headed out a little bit further west, they might be going out to New Orleans or any of those areas. And then if they're going east, you can kind of get the point. The point is a lot of people will be heading in the same general direction. So make sure you've got gas. If you don't, stop early, stop often. Even if you've got to wait, you do not want to be the person that gets stranded out there, because a lot of people are going to be thinking about themselves and they're not going to be wanting to help as much.
So we just gave you all the the scary bits of it, what to do during the scary bits of it. But what are us crazy people still doing living here? I actually got this question recently. They were like, there are other places to live. I'm thinking, well, sure, if I wanted some place equally beautiful, I could go to California and deal with some earthquakes,
Which you don't really have a heads up for.
Yeah, 0 heads up notice.
Or fires, unfortunately. I've got some cousins and aunts and uncles that have lost everything to that. So definitely something to consider. But at the end of the day, the real big thing, not trying to be a comparison thing, because there's other places that don't have any of that stuff, right? At the end of the day, the hurricanes are much more rare than most people think. In fact, what was the last one that hit us actually was Sally. Before then, Michael but Michael just kind of felt like a big storm to us. It was just far enough away that, it was knocking some stuff over, blowing some leaves over and stuff, but it wasn't anything crazy. And then before that, I couldn't even tell you. I had one 2016,
Ivan.
But again, real minor. Ivan was the last real big one at the end of 2004, if I remember correctly. I think it was November or something like that. Now, that one caused a lot of damage, particularly here in Fort Walton. It almost leveled a portion of Okaloosa Island. And luckily, everybody was evacuated. When it gets to certain points, the local government out here make sure that they let everybody know, and they make sure that people are evacuating as needed and getting out and getting the help that they needed if they're not able to evacuate. So it's a heck of a lot less scary and a heck of a lot less chance of it happening than I think a lot of people think. I've been here. I had just missed Ivan by about, 6 months or so back in 2005 or 6. I can't remember when I got here, so it may have been up to a year. But point is, what's that, 14, 15, 16 years I've lived here, and I've been through 3 of them, maybe. So don't focus all of your attention on the hurricanes. If the hurricanes are what is kind of stopping you from moving to this area or to any place in Florida for that matter, just keep in mind, once every so many years, you're going to have to pick up your stuff and go on a little weekend vacation up in the mountains somewhere and enjoy a weekend as the winds go away. And if that's the worst thing that happens to you while living in Florida, I'm okay with staying here for the rest of my life.
And you're basically in paradise, for this risky business that may or may not happen to you. You definitely get to enjoy the perks. Always. You can come to the beach and watch the sunrise, the sunset. You can go out to certain areas and, look up at the stars from the beach and check out the bioluminescence in the water. It's just amazing. And the atmosphere, because of the people that are here, because we're all so calm and chill, because we have this beach access, how can you not be excited about life when you have this just right here? So yes, it comes with some risks. Everything that's wonderful does. But it is absolutely worth it, at least to us.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So that is everything we have on hurricane preparedness. Please keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier in the video, we do have a link down below with a quick little guide, something you can just keep on you if you are moving to this area here soon or just want to keep it handy or take a look at it. You can go down there, click on that little link, It'll take you right to it. And well, I guess that's all we've got for this video.
See y'all at the next one.
See ya.